Have you ever wondered if the ancient wisdom found in the pages of the Bible could hold the key to unlocking unprecedented financial success in today's fast-paced, digital world? What if I told you that the secrets to true prosperity have been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years, waiting for you to discover them? Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey that could revolutionize not just your bank account, but your entire approach to life and purpose? Hello, dear friends, and welcome to our channel. I'm thrilled to have you join us today as we dive deep into a topic that has the power to change your life: how the timeless wisdom of the Bible can guide us in our financial decisions and lead us to a prosperity that goes far beyond mere dollars and cents. We're concluding our enlightening series on case studies and testimonies, and I promise you, the insights we're about to uncover will reshape your understanding of money, success, and purpose in ways you never thought possible. Before we dive into this topic, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your participation helps us spread this transformative message to more people. Let's get started. Today, we're not just wrapping up a series, we're opening the door to a new way of living. We'll be exploring how the profound lessons we've learned throughout this journey can be applied to transform our lives, our communities, and even our world. These aren't just stories we've shared. They're roadmaps to financial transformation, spiritual growth, and a life of true abundance. Throughout our series, we've delved into powerful testimonies and eye-opening case studies. We've explored stories of financial transformation that seemed almost miraculous. We've heard from individuals who overcame mountains of debt, discovered the liberating power of generosity, and learned to navigate the complex world of ethical investments. Each of these stories has offered us valuable lessons about faith, resilience, and the critical importance of aligning our finances with our deepest held values. Think back for a moment. How many times have you felt overwhelmed by financial decisions, unsure of which path to take? How often have you wondered if there's a better way to manage your money? A way that not only leads to financial security, but also brings peace of mind and aligns with your faith? If you've ever grappled with these questions, you're not alone. Today, we're going to address these concerns head-on and provide you with practical, biblically based solutions that have stood the test of time. Let's begin by revisiting some of the most impactful stories we've shared throughout this transformative series. Remember the testimony of Sarah and John, the young couple who managed to pay off a staggering $150,000 in debt in just 3 years? Their journey wasn't just about becoming debt-free. It was a powerful testament to the transformative power of faith, unwavering discipline, and wise stewardship. Sarah and John's story began like many others, with a mountain of student loans, credit card debt, and a mortgage that seemed insurmountable. They were living paycheck to paycheck, constantly stressed about money, and their financial struggles were putting a strain on their marriage. But everything changed when they decided to apply biblical principles to their finances. They started by tithing, even though it seemed counterintuitive when they were drowning in debt. "We decided to put God first in our finances," Sarah shared. "It was scary at first, but we felt it was an act of faith and obedience." This decision marked the beginning of their transformation. Next, they created a budget based on the principle of stewardship found in the parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14-30. They viewed every dollar as a resource entrusted to them by God, and they were determined to manage it wisely. They cut unnecessary expenses, lived frugally, and put every extra penny towards their debt. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of their journey was their shift in mindset. They embraced the biblical principle of contentment, as taught by the Apostle Paul in Philippians 4:11-13. "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength." This contentment allowed them to resist the constant temptation of consumerism and stay focused on their goal. They found joy in simplicity and grew closer as a couple as they worked together towards financial freedom. 3 years later, Sarah and John were debt-free and had started building wealth. But more importantly, they had grown spiritually, and their marriage was stronger than ever. This journey taught us to trust God in every area of our lives, John reflected. We learned that true wealth isn't about how much money you have, but about living a life of purpose and faith. Their story is a powerful reminder that financial transformation is possible when we align our money management with biblical principles. It's not just about becoming debt-free or wealthy. It's about using our resources in a way that honors God and serves others. Now, let's turn to another remarkable case study. The story of Michael, a successful businessman who decided to restructure his entire company based on biblical principles of fairness and generosity. Michael's journey shows us that success and ethical practices aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they often go hand in hand. Michael had built a thriving tech company from the ground up. By worldly standards, he was incredibly successful. The company was profitable, growing rapidly, and attracting top talent. But despite his success, Michael felt unfulfilled. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. One Sunday, his pastor preached a sermon on the biblical concept of Jubilee, a time of forgiveness of debts, liberation of slaves, and restoration of land to its original owners. This concept, described in Leviticus 25, was designed to prevent the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few, and to ensure that everyone had a chance to prosper. Inspired by this teaching, Michael began to wonder, what would it look like to apply the principle of Jubilee to a modern business? He spent months studying scripture, praying, and seeking counsel from other Christian business leaders. Finally, he emerged with a radical new business model. First, Michael implemented a profit-sharing program that distributed a significant portion of the company's profits among all employees, not just executives. This was based on the biblical principle found in 1 Timothy 5:18, "The worker deserves his wages." Next, he established a policy of forgiving small debts owed to the company by clients who were struggling financially. This was inspired by Deuteronomy 15, 1, 2. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel any loan they have made to a fellow Israelite. Perhaps most radically, Michael created a program to help his employees start their own businesses if they wish to do so. He provided mentoring, resources, and even startup capital. This was his modern interpretation of the Jubilee principle of restoring property and ensuring everyone had the opportunity to prosper. The results were astounding. Employee satisfaction skyrocketed, productivity increased, and the company's reputation in the industry soared. They attracted even more top talent and loyal customers who appreciated their ethical approach. Surprisingly to some, profits actually increased, as the company's unique model gave them a competitive edge in the market. But for Michael, the most rewarding aspect was the impact on people's lives. I've seen employees pay off debts, buy homes, and even start their own successful businesses, he shared. We're not just creating wealth, we're changing lives and communities. Michael's story demonstrates that it's possible to run a successful business while adhering to biblical principles of fairness, generosity, and empowerment. It challenges us to think creatively about how we can apply these timeless truths in our modern context. These stories, and many others like them that we've explored in our series, have taught us invaluable lessons. They've shown us that financial wisdom isn't just about making more money, it's about managing what we have with integrity, generosity, and a long-term perspective that extends beyond our own lives. One of the key principles we've seen repeated throughout these testimonies is the importance of stewardship. The Bible teaches us that everything we have is ultimately a gift from God, and we are called to be wise stewards of these resources. This mindset shift can be revolutionary in how we approach our finances. Consider again the parable of the talents in Matthew 25, 14, 30. In this story, Jesus teaches about the importance of using our resources wisely and productively. The master entrusts his servants with different amounts of money, talents. The servants who invested and multiplied their talents were praised and rewarded, while the one who buried his talent out of fear was rebuked. This parable isn't just about money, it's about using all of our resources, our time, skills, relationships, and yes, our finances, in ways that honor God and benefit others. It teaches us that God expects us to be proactive and creative with the resources He's entrusted to us, not passive or fearful. Applying this principle of stewardship to our finances might look like creating a detailed budget that accounts for every dollar, ensuring that our spending aligns with our values and priorities. Investing wisely, not just for our own benefit, but with an eye towards how our investments can create positive change in the world. Using our skills and talents to generate income, and then using that income to bless others and further God's kingdom. Being generous with our resources, whether that's through traditional tithing, supporting causes we believe in, or helping individuals in need. Teaching others about financial stewardship, multiplying the impact of these principles in our communities. Another crucial lesson we've learned is the power of contentment. In a world that constantly tells us we need more to be happy, the Bible offers a radically different perspective. The Apostle Paul writes in Philippians 4:11-13, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength." This contentment isn't about settling for less or lacking ambition. Rather, it's about finding peace and satisfaction regardless of our financial situation. It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't measured by the size of our bank accounts, but by the richness of our relationships, the depth of our faith, and the impact we have on others. Throughout our series, we've seen how this principle of contentment has transformed lives. Remember the story of Elizabeth, the retired teacher who found more joy in downsizing and simplifying her life than she ever did in accumulating possessions? Her testimony was a powerful reminder that sometimes less really is more. Elizabeth had spent years chasing the American dream, a big house, nice cars, designer clothes. She worked long hours and took on extra jobs to maintain her lifestyle. But despite her material success, she felt empty and stressed. "I had everything I thought I wanted," she said, "but I wasn't happy." After retiring, Elizabeth decided to make a radical change. Inspired by biblical teachings on simplicity and contentment, she sold her large home and most of her possessions. She moved into a small, cozy apartment and began to focus on experiences and relationships rather than things. The transformation in her life was remarkable. "For the first time in years, I feel truly free," Elizabeth shared. "I'm no longer a slave to my possessions or to the pressure to keep up appearances. I have less stuff, but my life is so much richer." Elizabeth now spends her time volunteering, deepening her relationships, and pursuing hobbies she never had time for before. She lives comfortably on her pension and social security, with plenty left over to give generously to causes she cares about. "I've learned that contentment isn't about having everything you want," she reflected. "It's about wanting what you already have." Her story illustrates the truth of 1 Timothy 6:8. "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that." But let's be clear, the Bible doesn't condemn wealth or success. What it does emphasize is the importance of our attitude towards money and how we use it. Proverbs 22:4 tells us, "Humility is the fear of the Lord. Its wages are riches and honor and life." This verse beautifully encapsulates the biblical perspective on wealth. It can be a blessing when it's pursued with the right heart and used for the right purposes. We see this principle illustrated in the story of Abraham in the Old Testament. Genesis 13:2 tells us that Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and gold. Yet Abraham's wealth didn't define him or corrupt him. Instead, he used his resources to bless others and serve God. He was known for his generosity and hospitality, and he never lost sight of the fact that his true wealth was in his relationship with God. In our modern context, we can look to examples like David Green, the founder of Hobby Lobby, who views his billions as a tool for ministry rather than personal indulgence. Or consider the Giving Pledge, started by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, where billionaires commit to giving away the majority of their wealth to philanthropic causes. While not explicitly Christian, this movement reflects biblical principles of generosity and stewardship of wealth. These examples remind us that wealth itself is neutral. It's how we acquire it and what we do with it that matters from a biblical perspective. The goal isn't to be rich or poor, but to be faithful with whatever resources God has entrusted to us. Now, let's talk about how we can practically apply these lessons in our daily lives. It's one thing to understand these principles intellectually. It's another to live them out day by day. So, how do we bridge that gap? First and foremost, it starts with a change in mindset. Instead of viewing your finances as a purely personal matter, start seeing them as a tool for spiritual growth and a means to bless others. This shift in perspective can transform even the most mundane financial tasks into opportunities for faithfulness and generosity. One practical step you can take is to start budgeting with a purpose. Instead of just allocating money for bills and savings, create categories in your budget for giving and for investing in your spiritual growth. This might mean setting aside money for charitable donations, or it could involve budgeting for resources that will help you grow in your faith and financial wisdom. Here's a simple framework for a purpose-driven budget. Giving. Start with at least 10% for tithing and charitable donations. As you're able, increase this percentage. Saving. Aim for 10 to 20% of your income. This includes emergency funds, retirement savings, and saving for major purchases. Living expenses. Try to keep these to 50 to 60% of your income. This includes housing, food, utilities, transportation, etc. Personal development. Allocate 5 to 10% for education, books, courses, or experiences that will help you grow personally and professionally. Discretionary. The remaining 10 to 15% can be used for entertainment, hobbies, or additional giving as you feel led. Remember, these percentages are guidelines and may need to be adjusted based on your individual circumstances. The key is to be intentional about every dollar and to ensure that your spending aligns with your values and priorities. Another powerful practice we've seen in many of our case studies is the art of gratitude. Take time each day to thank God for what you have, no matter how little it may seem. This practice of gratitude can help combat the discontentment and comparison that often lead to poor financial decisions. Remember the story of Rachel, the young professional who started keeping a blessing journal? She wrote down one thing she was grateful for each day, and over time she found that her attitude towards money completely changed. She became less focused on what she lacked and more appreciative of what she had, which in turn led to wiser financial choices. Rachel shared, "Before I started my gratitude practice, I was always focused on what I didn't have: the latest smartphone, designer clothes, a fancier car. I was constantly overspending and feeling dissatisfied. But as I began to intentionally count my blessings each day, I started to see how much abundance was already in my life." This shift in perspective had a profound impact on Rachel's finances. She found herself less tempted by impulse purchases and more content with what she already owned. She became more generous, finding joy in giving to others rather than accumulating things for herself. And perhaps most surprisingly, she found that opportunities for advancement and increased income seemed to come her way more frequently. "I believe that cultivating gratitude opened my eyes to opportunities I was missing before," Rachel reflected. "When I stopped fixating on what I lacked and started appreciating what I had, I became more positive and proactive in my career. This led to a promotion and a significant raise, which I now view as an opportunity to bless others rather than just improve my own lifestyle." Rachel's story illustrates the truth of 1 Thessalonians 5:18. "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." By cultivating a heart of gratitude, we can transform our relationship with money and open ourselves up to God's blessings, both material and spiritual. Let's also talk about the importance of community in our financial journeys. The Bible is clear about the value of wise counsel and accountability. Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." This principle has been evident in many of the success stories we've shared. Consider forming or joining a financial accountability group within your faith community. This could be a place where you share goals, discuss challenges, and encourage one another in applying biblical financial principles. The support and wisdom of a community can be invaluable, especially when facing tough financial decisions or striving to break harmful money habits. Here's how you might structure such a group. Regular meetings. Meet bi-weekly or monthly to discuss financial goals, challenges, and progress. Bible study. Incorporate study of biblical financial principles into your meetings. Goal setting. Help each other set and track financial goals aligned with biblical values. Accountability. Share your budgets and spending habits with the group for accountability. Prayer. Pray for each other's financial needs and challenges. Resource. Sharing. Share helpful resources, books, or tools that have aided your financial journey. Celebration. Celebrate each other's financial victories, no matter how small. Remember, the goal isn't to compare or compete, but to support and encourage one another in financial stewardship. Now, let's address some of the unique challenges we face in today's financial landscape and how biblical wisdom can guide us through them. In an age of instant gratification and easy credit, the temptation to live beyond our means is greater than ever. Yet, the Bible's teachings on patience, self-control, and contentment are more relevant than ever. Take, for example, the issue of consumer debt. Credit cards and buy now, pay later schemes make it easier than ever to accumulate debt. But Proverbs 22:7 warns us, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." This verse isn't saying all debt is wrong, but it's cautioning us about the potential dangers of living on borrowed money. Consider the story of Mark, a young professional who found himself $50,000 in credit card debt due to lifestyle inflation and impulsive spending. "I was living the high life," Mark shared, "but it was all an illusion. I was a slave to my debt, working just to make minimum payments." Mark's turning point came when he attended a financial seminar at his church. There he learned about biblical principles of financial management and the concept of delayed gratification. Inspired by what he learned, Mark made a commitment to get out of debt and live according to biblical financial principles. He started by creating a budget and cutting all unnecessary expenses. He sold his expensive car and moved to a smaller apartment. Most importantly, he stopped using credit cards altogether, forcing himself to live within his means. It wasn't an easy journey. There were times when Mark was tempted to fall back into old habits, especially when he saw his peers enjoying luxuries he could no longer afford. But he found strength in Scripture, particularly Romans 12:2. "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Mark also found support in his church community. He joined a financial accountability group where he could share his struggles and victories. Having that support system was crucial, Mark said. "They encouraged me when I felt like giving up and celebrated with me when I reached milestones." After 3 years of disciplined living and focused debt repayment, Mark became debt-free, but the lessons he learned went far beyond financial management. "This journey taught me the value of patience and contentment," Mark reflected. "I learned to find joy in the simple things and to trust God's timing. Now, I actually feel richer than I did when I was spending frivolously." Mark's story illustrates how we can apply the biblical principle of delayed gratification in our modern context. Instead of falling into the trap of instant gratification, we can choose to live within our means, even if it means making sacrifices in the short term. The peace and freedom that come from being debt-free are worth far more than the temporary pleasure of a purchase you can't afford. Another modern challenge is the complexity of the investment world. With so many options available, how do we make wise investment choices that align with our values? Here, we can look to the principle of stewardship again. Invest in companies and funds that align with your values. Consider impact investing, where your money can generate both financial returns and positive social or environmental impact. Remember the case study of Sarah, the investor who decided to realign her portfolio with her faith values? Initially, she was worried about potentially lower returns, but she found that ethical investing not only gave her peace of mind, but also provided competitive returns in the long run. Sarah had always been a savvy investor, building a substantial portfolio over the years. But as she grew in her faith, she began to feel uncomfortable with some of the companies she was invested in. I realized that while my investments were profitable, some of these companies were engaged in practices that went against my Christian values, Sarah shared. Inspired by the biblical principle of stewardship, Sarah decided to restructure her entire investment portfolio. She began by researching faith-based and socially responsible investment options. She looked for companies and funds that not only avoided harmful practices, but actively worked towards positive social and environmental impact. The process wasn't easy. It required a lot of research and some difficult decisions. Sarah had to sell some high-performing stocks because the companies didn't align with her values. There were moments of doubt, she admitted. I worried that I was sacrificing financial security for my principles. However, Sarah found encouragement in Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. She trusted that by prioritizing her values, God would provide for her needs. To her surprise, Sarah found that many ethically aligned investments performed just as well as, and in some cases better than, her previous portfolio. Moreover, she discovered a sense of peace and purpose in her investing that she had never experienced before. Now, when I look at my investment returns, I don't just see numbers, Sarah said. I see lives being impacted, communities being uplifted, and God's creation being cared for. It's not just about the bottom line anymore. It's about being a good steward of the resources God has entrusted to me. Sarah's story demonstrates that it's possible to invest wisely while staying true to your values. It challenges us to view our investments not just as a means of personal gain, but as a way to participate in God's work in the world. In our digital age, we also face the challenge of financial transparency and integrity. The ease of online transactions and the anonymity of cryptocurrency can sometimes lead to a disconnect between our actions and our values. But the biblical principle of integrity calls us to be honest and transparent in all our dealings, including our financial ones. Consider implementing a personal system of accountability, even for your digital transactions. This could mean regularly reviewing your online purchases with your spouse or accountability partner, or setting up alerts for any unusual activity in your accounts. Remember, integrity in the small things builds a foundation for integrity in the big things. Take the example of David, a tech-savvy entrepreneur who found himself struggling with financial integrity in the digital space. David's business was thriving, but the anonymity of online transactions had led him into some questionable practices. He was underreporting some of his digital income and making purchases that he knew didn't align with his professed values. It was so easy to justify, David confessed. I told myself that everyone does it, that it's just how business works in the digital world. But deep down, I knew I wasn't living with integrity. David's wake-up call came when he read Proverbs 11:1. The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him. He realized that his digital transactions were no different from physical ones in God's eyes. Integrity was integrity, whether online or offline. Convicted by this realization, David made a commitment to bring his digital financial life into alignment with his faith. He started by coming clean about his past practices and making amends where necessary. Then he implemented a system of accountability. He gave his wife full access to all his digital financial accounts. He set up automatic alerts for any transactions over a certain amount. He joined a group of Christian entrepreneurs who held each other accountable for ethical business practices. He committed to tithing on all his income, including digital transactions that were easy to overlook. The process was humbling and sometimes painful, but David found it incredibly freeing. Living with complete financial transparency has transformed my relationship with money, he shared. I no longer feel the stress of hiding things or justifying my actions. I can truly say that my digital financial life honors God. David's story reminds us that the biblical principle of integrity applies to every area of our lives, including our digital transactions. It challenges us to bring all of our financial dealings into the light, knowing that we are ultimately accountable to God. As we navigate these modern financial challenges, it's crucial to remember that our ultimate security doesn't come from our bank accounts or investment portfolios. Matthew 6:19, 21 reminds us, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." This doesn't mean we shouldn't plan for the future or manage our finances wisely. Rather, it's a reminder to keep our priorities in order. Use your financial resources in ways that have eternal value. Invest in relationships, in personal growth, in serving others, and in advancing God's kingdom. Consider the story of the Johnsons, a family who took this scripture to heart and radically changed their approach to finances. Tom and Lisa Johnson were successful professionals with a comfortable lifestyle. From the outside, they seemed to have it all: a beautiful home, nice cars, and regular exotic vacations. But they felt a growing sense of emptiness. "We were so focused on building our treasure on earth that we had neglected our spiritual lives and our relationships," Lisa shared. "We were successful by worldly standards, but we felt spiritually bankrupt." Inspired by Matthew 6:19-21, the Johnsons decided to reorient their finances around eternal values. They made some bold changes. They downsized their home and used the proceeds to support missionaries and local charities. They significantly increased their giving, going well beyond the traditional tithe. They started using their vacation time for short-term mission trips instead of luxury getaways. They began investing in relationships by hosting regular dinners and Bible studies in their home. They set aside money each month for spontaneous acts of kindness and generosity. The transformation in their lives was profound. "We thought we'd feel a sense of loss," Tom said, "but instead, we've gained so much. Our relationships are deeper, our faith is stronger, and we have a sense of purpose we never had before." The Johnson story doesn't mean everyone needs to make such dramatic changes, but it challenges us to consider: are we storing up treasures on earth or in heaven? Are we using our resources in ways that have eternal significance? As we begin to wrap up our series, I want to encourage you to take some time for reflection. Think about the stories we've shared and the principles we've discussed. How can you apply these lessons to your own financial journey? Perhaps you're inspired to start a debt repayment plan, or maybe you feel called to increase your giving. You might be considering a career change to better align your work with your values, or you may want to start educating others about biblical financial principles. Whatever it is, I encourage you to take action. Remember, knowledge without application is like faith without works. It's incomplete. James 1:22 exhorts us, "Do not merely listen to the word, and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." Start small if you need to, but start somewhere. Maybe it's creating your first budget based on biblical principles, or perhaps it's having an honest conversation with your spouse about your financial goals and values. It could be as simple as setting aside a few minutes each day to pray about your finances and seek God's wisdom. And don't forget the power of community. Share what you've learned with others. Offer encouragement to those who are struggling financially. Be open about your own journey, both the successes and the challenges. Your story could be the inspiration someone else needs to start their own journey towards financial freedom and faithful stewardship. As we conclude this series, I want to leave you with a powerful verse from Proverbs 3:9-10. "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine." This verse encapsulates so much of what we've discussed throughout our series. It reminds us to put God first in our finances, to be generous with what we have, and it promises that when we do so, we will experience abundance, not just materially, but in every aspect of our lives. Remember, true prosperity isn't just about having more money. It's about living a life of purpose, generosity, and faithfulness. It's about using our resources, whether they're abundant or scarce, in ways that honor God and bless others. As you go forward from here, I encourage you to keep learning, keep growing, and keep seeking God's wisdom in your financial decisions. The principles we've explored in this series aren't just theoretical. They have the power to transform your life, your family, and your community. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery and growth. Your engagement and enthusiasm have made this series truly special. I'd love to hear how these stories and principles have impacted your approach to finances. Please share your experiences in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We have an exciting new series coming up on biblical reflections and finances that you won't want to miss. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue creating content that combines timeless wisdom with practical, modern-day application. Remember, every financial decision is an opportunity to live out your faith and values. Whether you're budgeting, investing, spending, or giving, you have the chance to honor God and make a positive impact. So go forth with confidence, knowing that you're equipped with both ancient wisdom and modern insights to navigate your financial journey. Thank you once again for being part of our community. Until next time, may you prosper in all ways, financially, spiritually, and in every area of your life. God bless you, and I'll see you in our next video. As we close, I want to leave you with one final thought. The financial wisdom we find in the Bible isn't just about managing money. It's about managing life. It's about aligning our resources with our values, about finding contentment in a world of constant want, and about using what we have to make a difference in the world around us. Think about the impact you could have if you fully embrace these principles. Imagine the peace you'd feel knowing that your finances are in order and aligned with your faith. Picture the joy of being able to give generously without fear or hesitation. Envision the legacy you could leave for future generations, not just of material wealth, but of wisdom, integrity, and faith. This is the invitation that biblical financial principles extend to each of us. It's an invitation to a life of purpose, freedom, and impact. It's an invitation to see our money not as an end in itself, but as a tool for living out our values and making a difference in the world. So, as you go about your week, I challenge you to look at your finances through this lens. With every dollar you earn, spend, save, or give, ask yourself, how can I use this to honor God and bless others? How can I be a wise steward of the resources I've been entrusted with? Remember, you're not alone on this journey. You have the wisdom of Scripture to guide you, the examples of those who've gone before you to inspire you, and a community of believers to support you. And most importantly, you have a God who promises to give wisdom generously to all who ask, James 1:5. So ask for that wisdom, seek it diligently, and then put it into practice. Your financial decisions, guided by biblical principles, have the power to change not just your life, but the lives of those around you and even future generations. Thank you once again for being part of this journey. I'm excited to see how you'll apply these principles in your own life and the impact you'll make. Remember to share your stories and insights in the comments. Your experience could be just what someone else needs to hear. Until we meet again in our next video, may you walk in wisdom, live with purpose, and experience the joy of aligning your finances with your faith. God bless you all, and farewell for now.